Hey everyone, it's Jen with Spirited Saturdays, and this week we're talking about finding strength in self-challenge. So I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to read you something that I originally posted on my own channel because it really pertains to this and really pertains to honoring your efforts and honoring the fact that you're dealing with something that is very real, and the challenge is very real, and so honoring the efforts, it's important to honor the efforts that you take to work past that, work past the struggle. So I wrote something a while ago, and sort of just questions, not really a poem, not really a post, just things to consider. So I call it In Spite of Everything. In spite of everything, did you eat? In spite of feeling the need to restrict, did you eat? In spite of feeling like you don't deserve to eat, did you eat? In spite of feeling unable to eat, did you eat? In spite of knowing your eating disorder would rather you be alone, did you engage with others? In spite of feeling paralyzed to make a decision, did you make one wisely? In spite of the urge to weigh yourself, did you refrain from doing so? In spite of the urge to count calories, did you throw away the container or wrapper without looking? In spite of feeling shame, did you eat? In spite of feeling disgust, did you eat? In spite of feeling confused, did you eat? In spite of feeling worthless, did you eat? In spite of feeling impulsive, did you make wise choices? In spite of feeling destructive, did you refrain from hurting yourself? In spite of feeling hopeless, did you take care of yourself? In spite of having done a behavior, were you able to be gentle with yourself? Were you able not to judge yourself? In spite of feeling triggered, reminded, tempted, did you eat wisely? In spite of feeling detached from food, did you eat? In spite of feeling like you need to control your food, did you eat? In spite of feeling like everything in your life is going downhill and you can't imagine how you'd pick up the pieces, did you eat wisely? In spite of everything, did you fulfill your most basic need? In spite of everything, did you consider it your job to nourish yourself wisely? In spite of everything, did you put the second guessing on pause and do it anyway? Did you listen to your logically healthy self? Did you honor your body's basic needs? Did you have to tell yourself over and over, this sucks, but that's not the reason to engage in a behavior. That's not the reason to be destructive. And so if you've answered yes to any of these questions so far, you should be tremendously proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. Any of these questions in reference to eating, to overeating, to undereating, to binging, to purging, to overexercising, to taking diet pills, to taking laxatives, anything that is eating disordered, just apply this to that, and if you are able to do that for even one of these things, you should be so proud of yourself. When your head and your body are screaming at you to bring it closer to surrendering to this disorder, did you do the opposite of that anyway? With no rhyme or reason even. You just did. And I know people say that all the time, that's not the thing to say, you can't just eat, you can't just do this. But as somebody who understands and isn't saying that from a clueless perspective, who's been there and who has had to make the decision to literally just eat when there was really no other choice, I say that with the utmost compassion and with the utmost empathy, not in a naive way, not in a judgmental way. But just eating can be taken in an entirely different context when it's coming from a place of knowing and of understanding. So that's all that I mean by that, is eating in spite of all these very, very real things that are coming up. Because dying is not an option. And because the eating disorder behaviors are simply not an option, and because you know that a very big and mandatory part of recovery is the fight. And so you know, by virtue of the level of resistance and difficulty you're experiencing, you're doing the right thing and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. In spite of everything inside of you that is screaming obscenities of shame and disregard and unworthiness, indifference, destructiveness, toxicity, horror, did you nourish yourself wisely? And if you did, even just a little bit, for whatever it is, you've got to give yourself that credit. You've got to understand that that's worth a huge amount of credit. And when you give yourself credit for that one thing, you then have a reference point. You then can really, you build it into yourself, the wiring. It's like you've started building in a different wiring. You've started to see now that even when things are so difficult, hey, you were able to do it in that moment. So you have a reference point to look at later when you think you can't do it, or you think, oh, maybe things are even worse. But you can look back and think, no, I thought things were pretty bad, and I thought they couldn't get any worse then, and I was able to do it. I know you're able to do it. We're all able to do it. But that's being able to do it and saying I was able to do it accompanied with, man, I am so proud of myself for doing that. That's key. That's key, because then you can reflect on that moment with pride, with dignity. Then you can reflect on that moment with an authentic sense of recovery that carried you through it. So building that in to your recovery, building those moments of utter credit and utter accomplishment and utter pride is so important and so key to recovery. I mean, I'm not reading off a page anymore, and as I'm saying this, I'm getting chills because it's been such a key part of my recovery, and I want it so much for other people who are struggling, and I know you can do it, and I know you can give yourself that credit because you deserve it. All right, take care. Bye-bye.